No, I have taught in various countries, various universities. I think curiosity, is what drives learning in many of these countries. And the developed countries, the one advantage they have is, they don't have to worry about two meals a day and shelter on their a roof over their head or anything like that. I think they are looking at learning, just because of their own passion, their own interest. Think if I am not learning something, I feel very restless. If I am, for example, even simple reading newspapers, if I don't read two newspapers every day, I feel I have missed out on something. And I feel, I don't even know, I feel I lose confidence in myself. So I think that learning is what keeps me going.
Welcome to Inspire Someone Today podcast, a show where we dive into the stories and insights that has the power to create ripples of inspiration in your life. I'm your host Shrikant, and I'm thrilled to be with you on this journey of inspiration. Welcome back to part 2 of our conversation with Professor Rao. In this segment, he opens up about the secrets behind his success, his candid views on how AI will impact our future, and shares his power of three timeless lessons that can guide us all. If you thought part 1 was thought-provoking, what follows promises to be even more eye-catching, or should I say ear-catching. Part 1 was all about roots and vision, and part 2 is about wisdom and future. What does it really take to thrive? Let's dive straight in.
We are all writing about it. If you see I am very active on social media. I at least have 250,000 people following me, and I write regularly for Times of India. I talk about all of that. Whatever I told you, I have written in our most popular English daily newspaper, Times of India, read by all of these people. But, I think the bureaucracy, the willingness, that whole urgency that I see, right? Somebody has to see that on the government side too. Otherwise, the same light. And I think that passion, that urgency, which is needed, is what that needs to happen. I mean, it can still be, solved, and it is not lost yet. And I hope, that NEP is a good beginning. But the execution is where I think if we can make a task force, an empowered committee, and start looking at these major reforms, the 1991 style for higher education, I think many things can change. I think the bureaucracy, I doubt if that will ever happen in the current kind of a bureaucratic structure. So it has to happen from the PM directly getting involved in that. And without that, I doubt, if things really will go too far. That it requires major reforms right now.
So we'll all stay hopeful. So hoping that somebody will listen to this conversation. This show is called as Inspire Someone Today. Maybe that talk by Professor is going to inspire somebody out there to make some big bold step. Moving on a similar trajectory, Professor, you have taken on visiting roles at various institutions globally. How would you compare the mindset of students and the culture of learning across regions? What do these differences tell us about our own potential as a country in the global knowledge economy?
No, I have taught in various countries, various universities. I think curiosity, is what drives learning in many of these countries. And, the developed countries, the one advantage they have is, they don't have to worry about, two meals a day and shelter on their a roof over their head or anything like that. I think they are looking at learning, just because of their own passion, their own interest. So many a time in many countries like US or other developed kind of nations, students are able to pursue what interests them, right? That's one thing. Whereas in India, students are interested in something, but they want to pursue something else because that is where the jobs are available. Because by coming from, from a lower per capita kind of a nation, right? And to the security, the securing their career, their future is the first thing on the mind of parents, on the mind of students, right? Everybody, wants to first secure their career, and then I will worry about, my passion and all of that. So that is what explains this mad rush for IT, the software jobs and these kind of jobs, because they all want to get a job first. No, everything else comes later. I may be very interested in mathematics, right? But then if I think that mathematics will not get me a good job, I would like to pursue engineering. And then I will see, if I can ever have a chance to pursue mathematics kind of thing. So that is a tendency in India as compared to the developed countries. I have only, in other countries, I think I have only taught in these developed countries. And that is one major difference that you see. So students are here on the campuses just to get a job. So therefore, the placements have become so important in every institution. And in fact, recently my dean was saying, students are beginning to even calculate return on investments on their education down to a decimal point and then choose which institute to go kind of a thing. I think that is what we have become as a nation now. You don't blame, the students also for that because, like I said, the competition is intense and securing career is the thing that comes first. That is on top of your entire priorities. And I think you don't blame, but I think we are in a situation in our country's history when we have aspirations, but I think there is enough competition in everything, and so you need to just secure your career. That kind of a mentality that is very prevalent right now. So I think I hope we will become a developed nation. I mean that Viksit Bharat, all of that will happen. And I hope, when that happens, I mean, if somebody wants to pursue one single area, right? I mean, they should have full freedom to pursue that and expect that they can make a living out of that. I think that guarantee you cannot give today of any discipline other than maybe, some disciplines of engineering, right? So that is the challenge that we are facing right now. And that I see as one major difference. In IITs, I taught in India also only in the finest institutions in India. The students are very, very curious. Usually people say that in India, students don't ask questions and all of that. But in IITs, the classes are very interactive. I mean, so many questions students ask. They test your entire knowledge, when you go to the class. So which is all good in IITs that way. But I've also seen even within IITs, the undergraduate classes versus the postgraduate classes. Because the postgraduate classes, they come from various other parts of the country. Usually the IIT undergrads don't come for the postgraduate. So in the postgraduate classes, you often see students a bit shy, not asking, too many questions, and treating the teacher, as if the person knows everything and who am I to ask that person kind of a mentality. But in undergraduate classes, they don't care. You just ask whatever, you want to learn kind of a thing. I think so. Probably it also depends on even the country, which institution you have taught and which institutions you have gone to. But in Western countries, everybody asks questions. Doesn't matter, which class you are teaching, and they ask lots of questions. And if something is bothering, they are very free, kind of a thing to approach, and because they have that confidence that they can ask kind of a thing. Whereas in India, so usually students outside of IIT system are a bit shy in asking questions. They hesitate a little bit. And that's one difference which I have noticed. But I think the choice of careers in India, as I said, is more driven by, how to secure my career, like rather than, how to pursue my interests. So which is again one major difference between the developed countries and India.
And you make a very valid point, and it's also the reflection of how the country is kind of passing through. Is for me, end of the day, while passion is important, food at the table is also important. And hence, my option of pursuing a career is what gets me food at the table than what gives me internal joy or happiness. How do you kind of develop that mindset?
I think maybe now we are better placed than we ever were because of the availability of content everywhere. So now, if I want to, no, I have a great interest in physics, right? But I became a mechanical engineer because that was the only branch I could probably get. I mean, it's not true in my case, but I'm just taking an example, right? So now you found a job. Now you are working for somewhere in a big industry, right? But you knew that you are interested in physics. So now I can use independent of my profession. I think those opportunities exist today. And I think which was not the case maybe even 10 years ago. But now, I can even write, who says I cannot write scientific papers in physics now, though I may be working as a mechanical engineer somewhere. I can do all of that today. So I think those who want to do that now, we are probably at the best place right now in terms of availability of content and the opportunities that are available for somebody who has a deep passion in something, for them to pursue that passion. So I think probably that's how India will develop. A passion will become a second career, while your requirement becomes drives your first career. And not everybody is lucky to have their passion and the job all aligned very well. There are so many I know, they want to do something else, or they wanted to do something else, they have become something else. But now I also know that they are pursuing some of these as second kind of career option. So I think probably that's how we will move towards the final goal of combining passion with the careers. So
Professor, I will ask the top honkos of the educational institution on a very pertinent topic that is doing the rounds in the world, particularly amongst the student community today. And you know what I'm kind of talking to is AI, right?
Yeah.
What does AI mean to the graduating class of 2025 and beyond? And how should this student community start preparing themselves towards being part of the workforce?
yeah, it's a great enabler. That's how I see that. I for me, it's like having a PhD in all subjects. Sitting in my phone. Right now, I can ask it questions on genetics to what have you. I mean, climate change to anything, and then it will give me so many resources and so much of information. But information, basically Google also was giving the same information, right? But that time you needed to go to those 10 sites that Google referred you to, read all those 10 sites and synthesize. That's what we were doing with the help of Google. Now, Gen AI has taken it to one level above, right? You don't even need to synthesize anything. It goes to all those 10 sites, looks at all the information available, synthesizes and gives you, what you would have, what can you, 2 weeks to do earlier. So I think now it's very empowering, right? But we need to also see how it will hamper our own individual growth, right? If I become too dependent on these tools, right, then my ability to read anything and synthesize would also become an impairment at some point in time. And I've always said that these tools are great servants. If you treat them as a servant, right, and it takes your instructions, right, does the work that you assign it to do, then you are essentially empowering yourself. I mean, you don't have to do all those mundane kind of tasks, and being a servant which is so well read and well educated, will help you in many tasks. And but if you treat it like your master, and then you will have a problem, because then it's a lousy master. It's a great servant, but it is actually a lousy master. So then it will direct you in directions which you have no idea you are going, and you start believing that whatever ChatGPT is saying is the absolute truth, and then you get into all kinds of issues and challenges and all of that. I think there is a difference, right? I mean, I always feel, at least at the point where we are with respect to the technology and our individual development, is you need to become good at something. If you are not good at something, these tools will also not be able to help you much. For example, I work in the nanoelectronics area. I know what is happening in my field. I don't have time to read earlier. I used to read lots of papers when I was an active professor. Now I don't have so much of time to read so many papers. Now I use ChatGPT to tell me what are the last 10 papers that appeared in Nature in my area, right? Give me a gist of some of that, the top papers that are most cited in my area in the last 1 year. It does it now, with about 5 minutes, I get all of that information, which I would have earlier needed to spend so much of time. So that is how I use this AI, right? And it is very useful for me because I know what I am asking for. I know how it is saving my time, and I know that I could not have done today. So now I use it to actually empower myself. And for every activity that I do, I have a clarity. I want to cover these 4 points in that even newspaper article, but I don't have time to go and do research, reading all about those 4 points across government documents to, published literature and all of that. Now I can use this document to actually give me all of that information in a nutshell. So I can go to those resources and read myself and convince that what it is saying is actually true. So I think that is how, if you are using these tools, it's very good, right? So you become good at something. You use these tools to enhance your understanding of an area and to cut down on your time, right, for doing the same task. That is where they are most powerful and most empowering. The other aspect is, I am a student. I don't want to do any assignment, and teacher has given me some assignment. I give it to ChatGPT. ChatGPT gives me something. I submit it to the teacher, and then I expect that it has helped me. It has actually not helped me, not helped that student. It has reduced your ability to understand something, and you lost out on a great opportunity to learn something by using ChatGPT to do that assignment, and then you have actually harmed your career by using that. So therefore, I think the best way to use ChatGPT is, you have to first of all become good at something, right, on your own, through education, through learning, through reading, through whatever that is at your command, right? You become good at something and use these tools to become better in that area. So in fact, there are even scientific studies to point out that the people who are in the top 10% in their profession, right, their output, their ability to use these tools is at least 2 times or 3 times better compared to people who are at the bottom of that area, who have no clue what they are doing, and they are just using chat gpt to play around. That doesn't take them anywhere. It actually, if they are bad, it makes them worse. If they are good, it actually makes them better. So therefore, it's very important to be good at something and then use these tools to become better. And if you are bad and you have not learned anything, and if you are using these tools, it only makes things worse. And eventually, it will all fall apart. So
That's a brilliant line. I think the message out here is, you can go from good to great or bad to worse. The choice is yours. Great. First of the part of the round question, we had some serious conversation on everything that you have done in your academic world. What's your go-to form of entertainment or relaxation? 3 things that is your go-to in terms of entertainment or relaxation.
I like listening to podcasts. Earlier, I used to read a lot, but now I find that there are many good podcasts available. I mean, you can listen to great people, their thoughts. So I listen to podcasts quite a bit, actually. And of course, spending time with family is always the most pleasant thing. I also I used to play outdoor games, but now I started liking long evening walks, and so I think some of these I do now. These are how I spend most of my time. I do read when I am traveling, for example. When I am not listening to something and I am reading something. But I'm always, one thing which I realized, even thinking about it recently, I'm always trying to learn something, right? I mean, whatever I may be doing, I am always either listening to something and learning, I am reading something or learning, I am talking to people and learning. I think, learning is at the center of my relaxation. So,
Great. If you were to restart your journey, what are 3 things you would definitely change, and 3 you would never change?
I would have remained as a teacher, which I would not have changed. And honesty, integrity, I think are fundamental to me. Knowingly, I never made a mistake. I would never do anything wrong. And so that has always been in my ethos. Maybe it's my, cultural background, history, or whatever way my upbringing has been. And I have never done anything which, would one can classify as dishonest and illegal, cheat. And, I've never done that. I can't even think of doing anything like that. And I think, I have also been now the learning. I think if I am not learning something, I feel very restless. If I am, for example, even simple reading newspapers, if I don't read 2 newspapers every day, I feel I have missed out on something. And I feel, I don't even know, I feel I lose confidence in myself. So I think that learning is what keeps me going and keeps me energized, which is very, very important. So I do not know, what I would not have done, what I would have done, but these things are very fundamental to my existence.
Wonderful. So this was not part of my earlier question, but I framed it after reading your LinkedIn post yesterday on Teachers' Day. So what are 3 life lessons, one each, from these gentlemen, if you can share? Giuseppe Rivasi, Professor Dinesh Sharma and Professor Rakesh Lal?
I think integrity. That's one thing which is common across all the three of them. And the selflessness, right? Doing things without expecting anything in it for them. If I am doing it just to help that other person. And there is nothing in it for me. I think that is again common across these three individuals. And humility, right? And, they are very humble. I mean, for what they are, I think that humility is definitely, something that opens doors for many people. I think that is again common across all these three people. They were, as you read in that article, they are very different personalities. One, a very clean table any day. The other, you can't even see the person behind the table. But some of these qualities which are common across them is what makes them the great people that they are. And hard work. I think all of them were very hardworking. And so I think some of these were definitely the qualities they all possessed, and that's why, irrespective of their ways of functioning, their personalities and all of that, I think these are the common qualities which made them, such lovable, human beings.
Hey, it's so interesting. Despite everything that is going on in the world, we talk about so many skills, knowledge, all of this. It boils down to some of these very basic common traits. Professor, what are three enduring life lessons that you have gathered over your illustrious career?
I have always been staying curious is one thing. Like I said, the learning never stops. I think, and staying grounded, you will never find me any other way. Just connect to the grassroots, and so that's how I've always been. And discipline wise, I don't know whether I'm. I mean, work wise, I'm very disciplined, but otherwise, I can spend days doing whatever I am doing without, so if it is, that is how I have been. And I mean, I've always been driven by passion. If I do something, I would never do it in a half-hearted way. If I take up a job, I would give my best. I also can't say no, many a time, which is my biggest weakness. As a result, there is too many things to do on my plate, but I, always prioritize my work, and I eventually get it done, So I think that way, I mean, they have been very helpful as life lessons for me. So,
Professor, if a chapter were to be written about the quietest but most powerful moment in your journey, what story would it tell?
I think that moment was to receive the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize when I was 39 years old. That was a very young age for the Shanti Swarup Bhatnagar Prize. That was considered even now as the Nobel Prize of India. And for me, coming from a very humble background, and that prize is always given by the Prime Minister of the country. And I received it, very early in 1995, very early in my career. I came to India in 2005. I received it. 1998, I joined IIT Bombay. In 7 years, I rose to a level where I received that highest national award for scientists, and given by Prime Minister, and interacted with him over tea. That was my moment of in life, and that entire photograph and everything. It's still my WhatsApp, profile picture. That changed my life. I mean, and that showed me that I can do things, and I think that was the moment of change for me in my journey.
Fantastic. Many congratulations on that, Professor.
But that was 2005, so 20 years ago.
No, but nevertheless an achievement. Professor, if you could assign one mandatory course that every leader in the world must take, what would it be and why?
I think empathy. If you cannot empathize with a person, which is also in a way connecting with the person, right? You would never, do anything. I think that empathy is probably something, I don't know whether you can teach it to somebody, but I think being empathetic is the first step to doing something. I mean, if I want to take up a research topic, right, it's also because I am moved by a problem that somebody is facing, right? And then, that drives me to take up that research topic and put my entire heart and soul into that. I think that's again driven by that empathy. When somebody approaches you with a problem, if it moves you so much that how can this happen to this person? I think, you take actions to sort that problem out. I think being empathetic is something very important for every Indian.
It's a wonderful point there, Professor. The last of the power of three rounds, since you emphasize so much on learning and curiosity, if we were to share three micro experiments for one to become good learner or good observer of things around, what would those three micro experiments be like?
I think the observation, right? I mean, maybe empathy also plays a role there. Very, there is no. I always tell my students and everybody, if you are trying to find a research problem, you don't have to go to library and read an American journal, right? You just look around you, you find problems, right? India has all the problems of the world. If you are looking for a problem, don't no need to go to America and find a problem in their publications and all of that. And each of these problems, you can spend your lifetime solving them, and they will also require such high and deep technologies to solve. And so I think that power of observation is also about networking with people. I think I always say that you need to interact with unlike minds, right? I mean, you need to interact with people who are not like you, unlike in terms of attitude, right? Maybe, they come from industry backgrounds, so they really don't think like you. They think very differently. And so that's one way, to learn. And disciplines, right? I am from electronics, microwave, nano electronics. If I start talking to a person in chemistry, that again is a great learning thing. So that's again, something which one must do as a habit. Talk to people, who don't come from your discipline of knowledge, somebody completely different from what you are doing. And a cultural kind of a thing too. So like I said, I come from a certain culture, right? And if I talk to somebody who comes from a totally different culture, and those interactions also can be great learning experiences. I think to me, we're getting into those, interacting with unlike kind of minds, bringing them together is the first step to, discovering yourself and starting initiatives and doing all of that. I think that people must put themselves in uncomfortable situations. If I get up in the morning and talk to the same three people I'm comfortable with, do the same five things that I did every day, no magic is going to happen. I mean, you will not even realize when your life ended. But putting oneself in those uncomfortable situations, interacting with people, who are unlike them, right? I think that can open doors in many ways. I think that I would encourage everyone to do. I think that's a great learning thing in my hope.
Has there been times in your career where you felt stuck or uncertain? And how did you overcome those moments and find renewed energy?
I think that happens, at the level we are all operating, there is every day some crisis. I mean, sometimes you know what needs to be done, right? Sometimes you don't know. I mean, things look so overbearing that things can be quite challenging. But I think that integrity again comes in your way. Consultations. I would talk to so many people. When I'm faced with such situations, the one thing I do is just interact with people, because no one is better than all of us. That I believe very strongly. So nobody can be better than all of us. So therefore, you talk to people, and when I say talk to people, not just those five people that you talk every day. You sometimes talk to people who are much lower level than you in hierarchy, or people who you don't talk on a daily basis, and people all of those people. I think just interacting with people about the issue sometimes can show a solution to many of these problems. So I strongly believe in this culture of collaboration, consultation, right? Which is, I think with that, you will eventually find a way.
So thriving in the culture of collaboration and consultation is what you're recommending. Great. Professor, this show is all about great examples of inspiration. So before we sign off, what's your Inspire Someone Today message to all the listeners?
Yeah, I think, it's a beautiful life. I mean, when I now look back, it looks so short, right? Now I have just turned 60 years, and it just looks like yesterday. What I did 20 years ago, it is so fresh in your memory, and it just looks like yesterday. I just can't believe that, I have become this old now kind of a thing. I think we all need to realize that life is beautiful and very, very short. And there is so much to do, so much to learn, so much to contribute, so much to have fun. There's so many ways you can actually, make the world, the place near surrounding you, a better one for everyone. And I think, given that life is so short and everything is over, before you actually realize, I think the value of time is something which I now, feel we don't realize enough. And everything is over. I mean, it's just everything is a fleeting moment. So I think capture those moments, live in them as long as you can, have good relationships, and I think do something to make something better. It doesn't matter what it is, what you are making better, but I think all of us, if we can make even 2-3 people happy in your daily life, I think you have achieved something. I personally feel people don't realize how much they can contribute and how much they can change. But a lot of them struggling with these mental pressure issues and struggling with so many things is simply because they lack that social life. They are not connecting deeply enough with anybody else, and that is what is causing lot of challenges in many people. I think the first thing is the power of that community. Build your own communities and interact with them deeply, meaningfully. I think that's very, very important. So I think as a community, we can solve many problems.
Professor, you didn't give us pearls of wisdom, you gave us buckets of it. Wishing you lot of success. Let you be the pioneer of the educational reforms that country is so looking forward to. And thank you so much for sharing your life journey, your wonderful journey of what it takes, not just to kind of dream, but actually live the dream. Thank you for joining us on this episode of Inspire Someone Today. This is Srikanth, your host, signing off. Until next time, continue to carry the ripples of inspiration. Stay inspired, keep spreading the light.